Hi everyone, my name's Rachel and I'd like to welcome you back to my garden. Today we're going to be harvesting some green chilies. They're a medium heat variety, I'm not sure on the name, but we're going to be harvesting them and trying a new recipe that I found online, which is called Cowboy Candy. So let's go harvest some chilies. I have this chili plant here in this wooden planter, and it's got quite a lot of chilies on, and I don't eat a lot of chilies normally, but we're going to be harvesting these, and I thought this might be a way for me to use these up in a different type of way with this recipe, Cowboy Candy. If any of you have made it before, I'd love to hear from you and what you thought. So I'm really happy with our harvest of our green chilies that we have here. There's quite a few of those there, and we'll head back into the kitchen and we will make some cowboy candy. Very happy with this harvest. Quite a lot of chilies, so hopefully this will be a good recipe for us. First step in the kitchen is the chilies are rinsed. Make sure all the dirt has come off. Try and garden organically, so there shouldn't be any chemicals, but just give them a good rinse. So I'm just weighing my chilies out here. I've got about 250 or 257 grams of chilies, which is about half a pound. So the recipe that I'm using today calls for about a pound of chilies, so I'm going to be halving the recipe. I've got 1 cup of sugar, so the recipe says 2, but I've got 1 cup of sugar. I've also got some vinegar that we're going to be using for this recipe, and I've got some coriander seeds. Now there's lots of different recipes online, they all seem to have different spices, some don't have any spices at all, but I've decided on some coriander seeds. Some of the other recipes have things like garlic powder, turmeric. I didn't want to do turmeric because I wanted to keep the nice green color. So yeah, we're going to put all of the ingredients into the pot. We're going to boil the sugar for about 5 minutes apparently, and then after that we're going to add the sliced chilies. So before I get started with the sugar, I'm just going to slice up my chilies and we'll get going. I'm excited to try this. Okay, so I've sliced my chilies. If you are sensitive to chili, or if you've got particularly hot chilies, you might like to use gloves. I've just washed my hands thoroughly. You just need to be really careful that you don't sort of wipe your eyes or something, because of course they can be a bit spicy, but hopefully these ones are not too hot. I've also put some of the seeds aside. I like to always save my seeds so that I can grow the same plant again next time. So I've got my sliced chilies, I've got 1 cup of sugar, I've got vinegar. The recipe calls for half a cup, so I will put that in. I'm just going to check actually if it's half a cup or 1/3 of a cup. Yeah, so the recipe calls for 2/3 of a cup of vinegar, so I'm halving, so I'm adding 1/3 of a cup of vinegar and just a few of my coriander seeds. So I'm going to measure out my vinegar. I've just got normal distilled vinegar here, but you could use apple cider vinegar or a different one. The different recipes have different versions. So I'm just measuring out 1/3 cup of vinegar here. Okay, adding that to my 1 cup of sugar and just a few of the coriander seeds for some extra flavor. And I'm going to get that on the heat. So I have my sugar, my vinegar and my coriander seeds here on a medium heat. So I'm going to let the sugar dissolve, and it says to cook this for 5 minutes. Okay, so I've let this come to the boil, and now I'm going to turn it right down and simmer for 5 minutes. So I've let this simmer for 5 minutes, and now I'm just going to add in my chilies. I'm being a bit of a chicken, so I'm going to, any seeds that fall out, I'm not going to add them in here. So now I have all of my chilies in my sugar and vinegar recipe. So I'm going to cook this down for 5 minutes. Okay, so I've cooked down my chilies. I ended up cooking them a bit longer than the 5 minutes that it said to. I think when the water came out of the chilies, it created a lot of liquid, so I just sort of let it cook a bit longer and let it reduce. So I'll show you that, and we're just going to spoon it into some jars. I had a couple of options. I was going to use one of these ones with the top, but I think with it reducing more, I'm just going to use this small jar. I think this will fit into here today. If there's a little bit left over, then maybe we'll just eat with that with dinner tonight. Some of the recipes did say that you can water bath can them. Others just said to pop it in the fridge and make sure that you eat it within a couple of weeks. So I'm just going to keep a close eye on it to see how long it does last for. Okay, so here you can see a reduced cowboy candy. It's still quite hot, so I'm going to be very careful with this, spooning it into the jar. The recipe said to add in the chilies first and then top off with the liquid, so that's what we're going to be doing today. And I've had a little taste of this. It's still quite hot, but to me it reminds me of sweet chili sauce, so I'm kind of impressed with this. It's something different to do with the chilies. So this is still quite warm. You can see my jar here of candied peppers, or cowboy candy, as some recipes call this. I'm really happy with how that's turned out. I'll put the recipe in the show, in the notes, and if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so I'm just going to try a little bit of this. Still a bit hot. It's really sweet, but then the heat comes through. Yeah, it's definitely still quite hot, but I'm really happy with how that turned out. So maybe I'll be doing this one as a regular dish now. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.